going back to his last two appearances, early in June, at the end of April, he had thrown a combined 5 innings. Yesterday, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits given up, 1 walk, and 6 strikeouts. And I want to talk about the broader hope for him in just a second. But are you impressed at the power of Pickle Juice? And he drank some of it on the mound to alleviate the cramps and get going and finish out and get the win. Well, finish out the 5 innings needed to get the win.
You like pickle juice?
I don't think I've ever tried it.
Alec,
Don't hate it, don't love it.
you a pickle fan?
Not really.
Okay, I like pickles. Pickle juice is very good. And my son Carter saw this yesterday. He was like, why is he drinking pickle juice? I was like, it helps with cramping.
And dehydrating.
Yeah, and dehydration. He was like,
I don't know why I said it like that.
He was like, oh, so I need to drink more pickle juice. And I was like, yeah, sure. Yeah, you can do that. He goes, electrolytes. And I was like, I don't know. I'm sure somebody knows what electrolytes are.
President Camacho.
Yeah, President Camacho definitely does. If you know that reference, 877
You gotta know that reference, right?
Let us know. But I had concerns initially because I had the volume down, and I was like, what is happening right now? And then it looked like Bochy and was it Vargas were getting in a little bit of an argument, or Rojas, and I was like, oh my gosh. And Boch said something to him. He had one word that I could tell by the way that the letter started that it was an F word. But it was.
By the way, Boch said, I think he broke the record on bottles of pickle juice he drank today.
Yeah, and he was like, I already had 2 in the dugout, so those were just extra. But I was a little concerned at first, but I'm glad that it worked out for him. Then his day was over earlier than probably it should have been. You know, I think that was a little earlier than it should have been. But even with all the chaos that he was going through with stoppage and all that, he was able to get back on the mound and get outs. And I thought that was an important growth part for him right there.
So then my next question to go along with this, what are your expectations for Rocker this go around? So we have to keep an eye on this because there is some concerning news on the other side of this, and that's that Tyler Mahle went on the 15-day IL yesterday, although I think they put it retroactively like 3 days because of right shoulder fatigue. And so Kumar Rocker was brought up in his stead. Boch said, hey, we're going to continue to evaluate him. There's shoulder fatigue going on in that right shoulder, so we're erring on the side of caution. Give this thing some time to calm down. He said they have no timeline, but they want to make sure they clear it up so it's a short-term thing and obviously not what would probably be a disastrous long-term situation.
Yeah, didn't it feel like, this is regarding Mahle?
Yeah, Mahle, yeah.
Didn't it feel like the last outing they were talking a lot about his velo being kind of down, and his splitter didn't, because there wasn't that same separation in speed, or like drastic separation in speed, his splitter kind of got knocked around a little bit more. I believe that's what was happening in his last outing. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, and he started to struggle and kind of regress a little bit with the strikeout to walk ratios, which we talked about with Boch last week.
It seemed like the pitches were great locations.
Yeah.
But one of the things that Mike talked about very early in the year was that it seemed like the pitch, and we talked about this with Bochy too, it seemed like coming out of his hand it was 91, but hitters acted like it was 103.
Yeah.
And lately, it seemed like they've kind of caught on to it, and maybe that was because of this. But man, this is middle of season baseball.
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to have 5 starters make the whole season on many clubs.
And we always knew that Mahle was going to have to be rested
Yeah, because he hasn't had that many innings, in the last couple of years now. DeGrom, we're watching him, they're monitoring his innings. Eovaldi right now, where, he has one of those things, Kevin. I think it's just kind of maybe for the rest of his career. He starts the season hot, takes a little bit of time off in the middle of the season, and comes back hot at the end of the year.
Yeah.
But for Mahle, I was a little bit concerned because we have a bullpen day recently. How are we going to manage this? How are we? Can Leiter and Rocker be things that you can put your team on during this stretch?
Oh, by the way, I'm glad that enough people knew the Idiocracy
Good job.
reference.
Good job, y'all.
Or else I would have felt sad. Now, This kind of goes to the expectations for Rocker are kind of tied into the resiliency of the Rangers on the pitching side this year. 6 of their 8 starting pitchers, like starting pitching options, have already been on the injured list. So John Gray, wrist fracture. Cody Bradford, elbow soreness. Jack Leiter, blister. Nathan Eovaldi, triceps. Rocker, shoulder impingement. And now we just had Patrick Corbin, who has only been on the injured list twice since 2015. Him and DeGrom, believe it or not, are the only ones who haven't gone on the injured list now, with Malley as well. And that does show like an amazing resiliency from what's been one of the best starting pitching staffs in baseball. And then Chris Young, who, by the way, you can hear today with the G-Bag Nation, said we're close to having Evo back. When we get Evo back, that's a pretty solid rotation. So maybe in the next 5 to 7 days, we're strapped. So this week could be a little tough.
Interesting timing.
What makes you say that?
Look, you know me. I'm always into the sandbagging idea.
Okay.
This is the part of your schedule that seems to be the easiest.
And you do have the day off today, which helps.
You need the wins.
For sure.
So like that kind of negates what my thought here, but Chicago, Kansas City, Pittsburgh, Baltimore, twice. Like this is where I'm like, interesting timing for that. But I am looking at Leiter tomorrow. No pitcher currently listed for the next day. Corbin, DeGrom, no pitcher. Leiter, Corbin. Like that's
gonna be a bullpen
scary.
day.
That is scary, dude. That is a scary setup. But you don't have Skeens, so we're good there. Deal with him.
My guess would be you get Rocker on Saturday. Wednesday.
I would presume so, yeah.
We'll talk with him about it, because we will talk with Boch on Wednesday. That feels like that kind of has bullpen day written all over it. But so there's Chris Young saying, hey, next 5 to 7 days, we're in a tough spot. But after that, I think we're going to be pretty close and looking pretty good, because he also said like Gray and Bradford are, taking those steps back towards being back as well.
I was looking at ESPN has currently and we can discuss this tomorrow if we want, but 7 GMs with the most pressure.
Yes, for sure.
The thing about that though is Chris Young knows he doesn't have pressure to add pitching to this team. As you were just discussing.
I would agree.
He's looking at it going, no, when we're going to get those guys
pitching,
back.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah, starting pitching-wise, I'm really solid there.
Sure.
That's something I don't even have to stress about.
For sure.
Because when those guys come back, they're legitimate 2-3 ace guys.
I agree. I really do. So what are your expectations from Rocker? Now, I would love for people to be saying, I expect him to be able to stay in this rotation the rest of the season. Now, that might not be reasonable because everybody comes back, everybody's healthy, and it just becomes a numbers game. That's fine. I accept that. But let's just go off the assumption that you've seen this 8 million times. Doesn't matter what team you are, doesn't matter what pitching staff you are, you're going to run into a variety of injuries. And so because of that, I think Rocker could have the opportunity. I would love to see Kumar Rocker be able to stay in the rotation the rest of the season, because I think that already springboards you off to a great start in 2026. Do you think that expectation is too high?
What's been his longest stretch of games? Let's see. April 6th, 12th, 17th, 23rd?
Yeah, and then he got hurt, and then obviously he had he got sent down for a bit.
Gotcha. Okay. I think we're probably going to get inconsistency like that. I think he's going to, as long as he's healthy, he'll be in the rotation. But outings-wise, I think you're still going to get the ups and downs of rookie starting pitcher. That's going to be real. But I think now, as long as he can keep his health, it'll be more consistent. Every 5 days you get the ball. And I think that's important for him. And as we were discussing, the rest of the rotation kind of lends itself to that with injuries and so forth. But I think he can. Dude, he's shown when he gets on the mound the ability to strike people out, to get guys out. He's also shown that he can get knocked around a little bit and kind of lose his way. But he has the ability to do it. Go look at his innings, 5, 3, 7, 1, 3. It's inconsistent.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be that way for the rest of this season.
So here's an encouraging note on that. So I've got his pitch breakdown from yesterday. All right, he threw 2 sliders and a changeup. Don't care. Let's get that out of the way. So what was the big knock and what was the big thing that we asked Boch about last week is you can't trot out there with 2 pitches if you're a starting pitcher.
Yep.
Or it'll probably go poorly for you.
You have to have an out pitch.
Yes. And I know some people will argue that some of these are variations of the same pitch, but they still qualify as different pitches. Yesterday, Kumar Rocker, his top 4 pitches that he threw, 4-seamer 24 times, sinker 21 times, cutter 18 times, curveball 16 times. All right, so that is a good breakdown. Now, again, like I said, I understand some people think some of those pitches are just different variations of the exact same pitch, and maybe you want more off-speed stuff or whatever, but you did see a discernible breakdown with 4 pitches as opposed to last go-around, you get these 2 and that's it.
Yeah, and sometimes you want to work on something. Sometimes you don't have the other ones.
For sure.
And Mike's talked about that, man. I got on the mound at this place. I didn't have my curveball. I knew it in the bullpen. And then I got out there on the mound, and it wasn't there, and I knew that I was going to have to go with this, and this the entire game. You're right that a lot of those pitches are kind of similar. With him, it seems like one comes straight down off the table. One slides a little bit out, and he has a lot of movement on those pitches. And I think, you can see it pretty sharply. Yeah. His fastball has some movement on it too. It isn't a Mark Lowe where it's just straight.
Right.
And so but he has the ability to go, noon to 6. And that when I'm talking about a clock, like the ball will drop straight down like that. So he has that ability. And you know what the great thing is too, Kevin, is it all kind of looks like it's coming out of the same tunnel from him.
Yeah.
And that's a positive thing for him right now. But he doesn't have to go out there and throw. He just needs to know he has command of certain pitches. And then hopefully it seems like Higashioka has been catching the young guys. And it seems like he's working with them a lot. Hopefully he can help him feel more confident and use. Hey, there was something last year, Kevin, that or a couple of years ago, Andrew Heaney was pitching to Mitch Garver. And Jonah had been hurt for a little bit. And Mitch was like, hey, man, this pitch is looking really good. We need to use this more. He said, once he told me that, it gave me the confidence that pitch looks good because I know what it looks like coming out of my hand. But the catcher knows what it looks like coming up to a hitter.
Right.
And so maybe that's another thing is Higashioka's working with him, telling him, no, be confident in this pitch. It's doing exactly what we want it to do.
Now, another potential positive, although there is still some ways to go on this front, Josh Spores, on Saturday, he threw to hitters for the he threw to hitters for the first time since undergoing shoulder surgery last fall. Cody Bradford also threw to hitters for the second time in a week. So those are steps forward. For Spores, he had his fastball sitting at about 91 miles per hour, which was 3 miles per hour up from the last time. And so he's still nervous and he wants his velocity to ramp up. But I thought this was a really fascinating point from him. Spore said, I've never had surgery, so I just don't know how or when the velocity is going to come back. He said, Chris Young said it would just keep going every time out. So that's what I'm doing is just chasing velo a little. And so you saw one appearance over one appearance. It went up 3 miles per hour. If he can get back to at least 95, I'm sure he would prefer to be sitting at 97. He'd be like, hey, I'm good to go. But it's a step in the right direction.
I'm glad you brought up that specific number because we talked about that Saturday at the game.
Right.
Jacob deGrom, we know, can throw 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And it pretty much all he's got to do is reach back and grab a little bit more. I'm always fascinated that gun says 97 over and over and over and over. And I'm like, how does he consistently do that? And he's actually holding back a little bit to be able to do that. We know he knows he can do 100 miles an hour. So with Spores, I know he wants to get to that point. And that helps every piece of his off-speed pitches, too, because, when he has that velocity, it's going to throw him off just a little bit when they're doing it. But I hope that it happens for him sometime soon.
So what if I told you that's not the most consistent thing Jacob deGrom does? This is the wildest stat to me. You go back to March 26th. These are Jacob deGrom's last 4 starts. May 26th, excuse me. He threw 81 pitches. His next start, June 1st. 81 pitches. His next start, June 7th, 81 pitches. They adjusted the pitch count afterwards, and I was so sad.
I remember
I was so sad. So it was the 6th inning because we're at the game on Saturday, and there's a 2-strike count, and I was like, this is his 81st pitch. He needs to get this person right here and right now. And what did he do? He struck the dude out.
It was a pop out.
A pop out. That's
yeah.
right. I'm sorry. it was a pop out. But then ESPN had the pitch count one different. And so he finished at 82 pitches. But think about that. His last 4 starts, 81, 81, 81, 82.
That is consistency. And
that's unbelievable.
And the innings are pretty similar.
Yes.
The numbers are all pretty the same.
Yes, it is unfreaking believable.